Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of That Early Childhood Nerd. I'm Heather Bernt-Santy. Very excited. Kisa Marx is on the show today. Hi, Kisa.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm giving Kisa all my true confessionals, all my insecurities. Even when I do this intro and I say, welcome to the show or whatever, it's like, really, the show? How just
How dare you?
dare you just introduce people, welcome them to the show? Brains are weird. Hi,
Yeah.
Kisa.
Hi. Well, and I think you're in good company too, because it's a lot of I'm just gonna go ahead and say imposter syndrome. A
Yeah,
lot of that in the field of education,
yeah.
in our field particularly, because we feel like, who are we to say these things?
Right. Yes. Yes. Which gets us into trouble.
It does.
Really
It does.
dig the
Yeah.
deep hole then that we have to try and climb out of. And maybe that's related to the topic today.
I think it
Maybe that's
is.
related to
I
this
really
conversation.
do. Yep.
So
We'll just roll it out.
so we're going to talk do another episode in this series about quality and how the word is used and what it means and disconnects and all that kind of stuff. So by the time this episode comes out, there'll have been a couple other conversations, but we're going to do something different this time, and instead of having like an official quote, I'm just going to use my own thought, which again, I was telling Kisa before we started recording that felt really weird. It's my own thought. But anyway, so I've been thinking about, well, you and I have been talking for a while about doing a conversation, having a conversation about shifting from talking about developmentally appropriate to reformed, developmentally informed, or developmentally responsive.
Yes.
I don't think that was a Freudian
I
slip.
like that. I like that mashup.
It was a mashup. That's better than Freudian slip. Anyway, so I think that ties into these conversations about my like growing discomfort with the phrases we throw around, um, uh, especially when they contribute to gatekeeping, like I think quality does sometimes. So here's a note I made to myself, and probably I was in the tub with a glass of wine when I made this note to myself on my phone. But I wrote to myself, we're letting too many others, in quotes, tell us what is quality. We need to make space for the child to tell us. Developmentally appropriate is too tied up with those other voices for me. Developmentally informed and responsive for me brings it back to the child. So it's not, I don't know. I feel like for me, developmentally appropriate practice has become more of a thing to argue about and too tied up in academic content ideas and not enough just what is this child in front of me telling me or
Yeah.
showing me or asking me or inviting, all those things. So I feel like for me, quality conversations about quality need to come back to the child in front of us. And I'm just gonna say one more thing and then I'll let you talk.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I'm listening.
one of my things, both as a student when I was getting my degrees, um, and remember this, I'm sure I was a delight to have in class. But even now as a professor and in conversations in higher education about developmentally appropriate practice, so many assignments say, look at this activity and tell me whether it's developmentally appropriate or not. And if we're really thinking that developmentally appropriate means not only what do we know about typical 3-year-olds, but what do we also know about the 3-year-old in front of us right now? And what do we
Hmm.
also know about the cultural and social context they come to us from? You can't answer that question if the child's not in front of you and the family's not in front of you. You can't say it's developmentally appropriate or not.
Hmm.
So I think even internally in our field, the way we use it, um, we define it one way, but we use it a different way. And
Yeah.
it becomes it becomes gatekeeping to me.
Hmm. Yeah. And I would go a step further and add that it's also a get out of jail free card, right? If you don't, that question could be there, but it
Yeah.
should be an extended response, right? So, is it developmentally appropriate? How?
Mhm.
And then you'll be left with, well, I don't know because I don't know the child. This child,
Right.
what are these different things about the child that I have to kind of reflect on whether what we're doing is in fact developmentally appropriate. So I
Right.
just feel like it's a way that we don't have to check in with ourselves and answer those tough questions and
Mm.
think about how is this developmentally appropriate?
Yeah. And that's why for me, I needed a language switch. Like that's
Yeah.
just one of my I don't know, maybe it's one of my good ads, but it's also one of my important twos.
Mhm,
Important
mhm,
to me to think intentionally about the words that I use. And also I recognize that the words we use can shift our thinking or keep us in entrenched old ideas. And
100%. Yeah.
so when I started thinking, I thought, if we're developmentally informed, of course we have to have some baseline knowledge about um, what we think we can know about development, and even that's a whole thing. But to be developmentally informed means to me that or responsive means that I'm making my decisions in response to the human child who's with me, or the group of
Absolutely.
children who are with me.
Mhm,
And how often are they asking me about my content and my curriculum and my plans and my goals? They're asking me most often to see them and be with them.
mhm. Do I belong here? Do you
Yeah.
love me?
Yeah.
Can you wipe my nose? That's
Right.
what they care about. Do
Yes.
I have to touch that?
Yes.
You know?
Or can I touch that?
Can I touch that?
Yeah,
Can I knock it down? They wanna know those things.
I think it comes down to me. Are we thinking about the quality checklist? And this is kind of a callback to another conversation. The quality
Mhm,
checklists or the standards or that governing body, or
mhm.
are we thinking about the quality of life for everyone who's here?
Yeah.
My program, your program, wherever
Mhm,
that might be.
mhm.
I think my big thing is DAP feels commodified to me now, and
Yeah.
I need to be humanizing. My practice needs to be striving for, seeing humanity and being human.
Yeah, I think when I heard, that shift in your wording, the phrasing of developmentally informed or responsive, it was just like a jolt, right? And it made me rethink everything. Now, when I say quality, I automatically think in my mind, what makes it quality?
Mhm,
And because there's so much ambiguity in the words that we use,
mhm.
and it again, it's like a get out of jail free card. We don't have to have anything behind it. It's just like, "Oh, she said that, give her a pass. She
Uh-huh.
said it's developmentally appropriate, and so
Right.
therefore it must be." But
Yeah.
there's nothing that talks about the child in it. And so we can check off the things on paper, but if we're not censoring the child, then we don't have a humanizing practice.
Mhm.
If we're getting all checking all those lists, maybe if we had a humanizing practice, some of those things on the list might not be checked off because
Yeah.
we can't take the time to care about them if we're caring for the child.
Yeah. And I mean, a humanizing practice, of course, is focusing on the humanity of the children, but it's humanizing for us too, right? I
Absolutely.
I I think it takes us deeper into the work,
Mhm.
um, and it connects us more closely with the children and their families and our colleagues.
Yeah.
Um, it has to keep our why at the forefront, right? If that's our value, right? Like some people
Mhm.
really cling to that idea of developmentally appropriate practice as academic content focus
Mhm.
or standards focused or whatever because that is their value.
Yeah.
Mm. And but for me it didn't fit anymore.
Yeah, and it doesn't fit for me either, and I've been told I speaking with someone about care, and they flat out said, "Yeah, but if
Mm.
you wanna get funding, they don't give a shit about care." I said,
Yeah.
"But you know what? I do. I do, and that's what matters. It's gonna show here because
Yeah.
that's important to me."
Right. I think that's one of the saddest developments and maybe development isn't the word that I want, but the
Mm.
saddest things that is true right now is
Mhm.
that people are just blatantly saying, keep care out of the conversation
Yeah.
if you want to get anything from me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think in some circles that I'm in right now that really have me thinking and doing this series on quality, um, they're saying, it has to be quality, but it can't be care. And I think, what does that mean in your head? Like, are you just throwing out the buzzwords that you've heard
Yes.
and the sound bites that you've heard? Because what if you stopped and thought about what that meant?
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to
What
be
would quality
quality,
mean for
but it can't
you?
be care. Whew.
Yeah. If someone was taking care of you, if someone was looking after you, in order for me okay, if I was at a hotel, right? If
Uh-huh.
I was going to rate this hotel as 5 star, they would have to take care of me. The
Mm,
bed would have to be nice, and there couldn't be bed bugs. Like, yeah, that's a bed.
right, right.
They did give me the bed. Can you get 5 stars? Absolutely not. The quality of care that you provided is what made me give you that 5 stars, right? It's the
Yeah,
same with everyone. If I have a quality experience, someone was taking care of me. And it goes down to children. And I know people have a hard time seeing our little precious deficits as human beings, but they are. And we
yes.
want to give them quality too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what it is they're separating the child's head from the body.
Yes, absolutely.
As Lori Malaguso Guzzi says in the 100
Mhm.
Languages of
Yeah,
Children, and others have said it too. It's saying we only care about what we think is quality and what is appropriate to stuff into their empty brains.
yeah, yeah, and
To
I'm
be blunt
thinking
about it, it's not, when we say, uh, appropriate practice is quality and that, but only if it is feeding either the academic machine or the economic machine.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
we're not concerned about a whole child.
yeah, that all comes back to productivity,
Yeah.
and so we're not seeing anyone, right? This is, again, the, what's it called? Not conveyor belt. When you go on the line, the product
Assembly
line,
line.
assembly line, yes, thank you.
Okay.
The assembly line, I could not think of that word. This is
And
back
they
to
stand around the conveyor belt sometimes.
really, I was close. So yeah, the assembly line with children, these are products that we're commodifying everything. Oh, look at this. This is shiny and new. Your kid will be ready for kindergarten. They'll say this many words. It's all of these things, but the child is forgotten.
Yeah.
Probably the teacher is forgotten. I'm not even going to say probably. The educator is forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, how much can you produce though?
Mhm.
It's very toxic.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking, when I was fortunate enough to interview Posse Sahlberg and William Doyle for the show about their book, Let the Children Play. And I can't
Mhm.
remember which one of them said it. And I'm sure they're not listening, so neither of them will be offended by that. But one of them said about 21st century skills and about readiness or whatever, that it's just a marketing slogan. And I
Mhm.
think the same can be said of developmentally appropriate practice and of quality.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's just a marketing slogan. Like recently someone tried to tell uh recently someone was gossiping about me a little bit and
Mhm.
trying to tell someone who's important
Mhm.
that I know Heather's all about play, but that's just not realistic. But in their next Facebook post to announce they have openings for enrollment, they
Mm.
used play based in their marketing slogan. So
Oh,
so I think we need to get real about words, I guess is what I'm saying, and
yeah.
how that impacts our thinking and then how that impacts our actions and our values, or shows our values. Um, and if the children's daily lived experience is not our focus or our reason for being, we're in trouble. We're in a lot of
Yeah. Yeah. What came to mind was an episode that I believe you did with Mike Huber, and he was talking about chunking. Like, you
trouble.
take
Okay.
everything in, like, chunks with the kid instead of
Oh,
looking at the child itself,
uh-huh.
and that a more humanizing practice with the child that he was giving the example for was to deal with the child.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, "Oh, we want them to swap this, we want them to get better at this is their goal, this is the objectives," but
Yeah.
those you're just seeing the child in chunks,
Mhm.
and instead of seeing the child, and we need to do that with the children that we care for, with the, educators, with the curricula. We need to do that all the way up,
Mhm.
is to start seeing people
Yeah.
instead of products,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we can do that by calling a thing a thing.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking about um the way we really, maybe it was when I was teaching last night. We were talking about how um well, it's a child development class, and last night was the first session. And I was talking to
Mhm,
them about how they can do all the assignments and they can come to class and they can do their participate in discussion or whatever, um, and get their grade. But ultimately, none of it matters if they're not looking at how this connects to what they really see in front of them. It doesn't matter how many theorists I talk to them about, and how many really great selections I give them to read or
mhm,
podcasts to
mhm.
listen to. None of it matters if it's not going to impact the lens that they're looking through. And
Yeah. None of the letters, all the letters in the world wouldn't give you a clue. If you
yeah,
don't know how to reflect on it
yeah.
and relate it back to the children in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the examples I gave them was, and I know I've talked about this before, but in the classroom, the preschool classroom I was at Purdue before I was at Ivy Tech, we had the standard wooden shelf for the
Mhm,
standard unit blocks.
mhm,
And we had the contact paper shapes of the unit blocks on the shelf, just like the quality rating scales tell us we should do, so that
mhm,
children can learn matching and math and
mhm.
shapes and whatever, and so they'll be good cleanuppers. And and so on paper we were meeting the quality standards. But what I
Mhm,
was seeing with the kids in the block area was frustration and giving up or avoiding, because they were all
mhm.
clustered in front of the block shelf, trying to do their work
Yeah.
in front of the block shelf and knocking each other's stuff over and getting in each other's way. So I um, got 4 big plastic tubs, um, scattered all the blocks into those 4 tubs and put it in 4 different corners of the block area.
Mhm.
And not only did it solve those conflicts we were having, cleanup was more fun because they could throw noisy blocks into tubs.
Yeah. Mhm,
And they were moving more because they'd have to get up and walk to a tub to get the block they were looking for. And they had to hold that image in their brain of what the block was they were looking for while they walked over. And there was heavy work as they moved the big tubs around. And I could just make such a strong case for how much more developmentally responsive and informed it was
yeah.
than the fact that someone else said high quality was this structure and this more controlled way of having blocks. Um,
Yeah, and for those who aren't really sure of what a reflective practice looks like, it looks like that. That
mhm,
I understood, you told me that it has to be this way in order for the children to learn. But I took the children in front of me, what I knew, what I saw wasn't working, and
mhm.
what was working, and then I created the curated the environment to
Yeah,
to match what would be informed by their development, and that we're still gonna get there. We're
yeah,
just not gonna get there the way you said I should get there.
yeah. Yeah, and I almost think that the quality scales, then the checklists, whatever, um, limit our thinking
Yep.
then,
Mhm.
and limit our own creativity which
Mhm,
takes some job satisfaction out, I would imagine. I think there
mhm,
are people who are just like, tell me what to do. I just need to survive the day.
mhm.
But ultimately you want to get to a point where you're able to think a little bit
Yeah.
independently and critically. And when we think, oh, I couldn't possibly change the block area because um, that's not what the quality checklist said.
Yeah, but it's your classroom, you know?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Well, and it's so, also it's our choice to be there. It's not the children's choice to be there. And in
Mhm,
some programs I've worked in, I've had children who were with me for a 10-hour day, well, in the space for a 10-hour day.
mhm.
Um, why on earth would I want to make it look like every other space they're going to be in?
Right.
And why would I think that someone outside of that space would be able to tell me what's best for a child who's there sort of involuntarily uh, uh,
For
for
most
long
of their life.
hours, for a lot of their life.
Right.
And that's where all their relationship learning is happening, and that's where all their identity formation, or a lot of their so much of their identity formation is happening, and the messages they're getting about themselves as learners. Um,
Mhm.
it's too big. It's too big to let just somebody else say this is what's right for everybody.
Yeah, because it's not. Um, a a favorite quote of mine is from the book, Emergent, oh Lord, is it Emergent Strategy? I can't Amber Marie Brown.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh,
Hate when
okay.
I don't know a book. I hate it and I
I
love
might
it.
be saying I know I might be saying the title wrong because I
Yeah.
messed up like that up, but it's good enough that I remember the quote. The quote is "Small is good, small is all," and I always remember that
Oh.
because everybody wants us to start here.
Hmm.
You want the kids ready for college,
Yes.
some Ivy League, but they're still, like, just coming into toddlerhood, right? So
Yeah.
can we focus small? Can we start very, very small? Can we start instead of having our classroom at the beginning of the year set up before the children walk in? Can we
Mhm.
start with blank walls? Can we see what the children say they need and
Yeah.
fill it little by little?
Yeah.
I think the rush to get to later is the problem.
Yeah.
If we could slow down and kind of like zone in, and I know because we're in America and it's like go, 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 chop, 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 and everybody wants to get to the next thing all the time, but that's not serving us and it's not serving our children. So, can we just slow down and see? First of all, we don't know what we need.
Yeah.
Once we start to see what our children need, I promise you start to see what you need too because it gets easier once you start serving them, and then
Uh-huh.
you're like, "Wait a minute. Let me add myself in there."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, I just really think that we should fight for that hard, like, just slow down a little bit. Look
Hmm.
at what's working, look at what isn't, and then think about what could be modified.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll get to quality, real quality, quality that you can defend, quality that you don't have to worry about how to explain it.
Mhm. Or
If you
that you could
just
lose
slow down.
somehow.
Yeah. Or if
Yeah.
you just slow down, you
Yeah.
can find what's informed by the child's development. You can be responsive to the child's development, and it won't make you blush, and it won't make you freeze when someone asks you because you're doing it in real time. It's
Mhm.
hard, just like any kid. This is rote, right?
Yeah.
They're telling you to say this. So you're just doing it. And then when someone asks you, like, I don't remember because
Right.
you didn't learn it.
Right. Right. Right.
We're just
Or
like the students.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think about um when I was working. It was when I first moved to Indiana. And
Mhm.
I'd never worked in or been in like NACE accredited center before,
Yeah.
and got a job at one. And I was so excited because this was going to be the pinnacle, right? This was going to be, and I walked in and it was very mediocre, you know,
Mid, as the
and
young kids say.
and bleak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mid and bleak. And and it was just really disappointing. And no one there that I talked to could like tell me what it meant that they were accredited. And I think that's the case. Like we tell our classroom teachers, well, you have to have this and this and this and this, and we have to document this,
Mhm,
but we don't go deeper than that and say, okay, so why would having um, 3 to 5 math materials from this catalog on a shelf in this part of the room contribute to quality? And you could say, well, it's math. Okay, but
mhm,
why? Why does that contribute to a quality experience for a 3-year-old?
mhm.
Period. Or this 3-year-old exclamation point in front of
Oh,
us.
yeah, yeah.
Um, that takes a little bit extra. And I think part of it is we don't trust the teachers. So we think we need to um just give them these rules to follow. It's insulting all around, right? I
Oh,
think
yeah.
this idea that we can't trust children, and so we can't trust their teachers.
Mhm.
And you know, I have the funding, so I'm the one who says, and it's
Yeah,
a disgusting system sometimes.
yeah. The system, like, throw the whole thing away. It's just
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
from
yeah.
the rooter to the tutor. It's not it's not like, this doesn't work anymore, and we need to realize that it doesn't work so that we can implement some real change. And, um, a long time ago, I got rid of the term in my head, renegade, because, again, to me, that's ambiguous. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
they think it means. What's really renegade is to go against what accreditation says, go against the quality rating, and do what's best for the child, censor
Mhm,
the child. I
mhm,
have new team, and I have like wonderful, wonderful team care workers in here. But one comes from a space where they had a lot of like accreditation and things like that. They're intuitively they're more care centered, right? And but when they got here, it was a lot of, "Oh, should we do this? Should I write this down when we go to do home visits? Should I bring these things?" I am not a social worker, and this is home-based care. I
mhm.
did not get where I am by focusing on those things. At some point, I had to intentionally say, "I don't care."
Really, yeah.
Yeah. I
That's
care about the
bold.
relationships.
Yeah,
I care about the children, and then
yeah,
I focus on that and then move out.
yeah. You know, it's really easy for me to say that kind of thing in my classrooms with my students, or like when I was a director with the folks
Yeah.
who were working there. It's much harder for me to say that kind of thing in the community circles that I'm in, where these conversations are also happening. And
Yeah.
I think so much of the the idea that quality means it looks like school, or that its academic content is really
Yeah.
strong.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of that I think comes from our feeling as a field of being kind of powerless and being not respected as professionals. And so we think, okay, well, I guess if I want respect, I have to make it look like what they think it should look like,
Yeah.
instead of being developmentally responsive.
And we're creating what it looks like. We're
Yeah,
setting the bar.
yeah. And I think I was reading, oh no, I was talking with Carol Garbodin Murray about NACCE's Code of Ethical Conduct, which is I use it with
Mhm.
students, and I use it in my work. I used it when I was a teacher and director. But there's a piece that's like, above all, we shall do no harm. And then it lists all these kind adjectives for the kinds of practices that we won't engage in. And one of them is exploitative. We're not going to exploit children um,
Mhm.
for our gain, right?
Mhm.
We're not going
Mhm.
to engage in those kinds of practices. But I think when we sacrifice their development for our professional recognition, that's
That's
exactly
exactly what we're
what we're
doing.
doing.
Mhm.
And it sounds so harsh every time it comes out of my mouth to say, yeah,
Mhm.
the curriculum that's making money off of everyone's fear that children are falling behind, and the teacher who needs to be super structured and controlled and academic focused before the children have shown that they're ready for that.
Mhm.
Um, that's coming from the adult need, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's on the shoulders of children who've been on Earth for less than, 60 months or whatever, 60 months or less, 72 months or less. And that I've decided that I feel like that's exploiting children.
And I agree with you. I like to use it's funny when I was more adult centered to hear people speak of children in terms of months used to make my eyes roll all the
Right,
time.
yes.
But but
Yeah,
now that I want people to like I'm trying to be intentional about how long this child has been on earth,
yeah,
I think, yeah, that really works. But I always use the term in 1800 days. So it's either 1800 days or less,
uh-huh,
5 years. That's how long that person has been here.
yeah, yeah,
And so
that's
would
even
you
more
expect
powerful.
somebody who's been here less than 1800 days to know these things?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
We've been here a lot of days.
I mean, I think I get that, I know the joke, and I know that there are the, parents who seem insufferable because they're talking about their child in months old.
Yeah.
But for me, when I'm talking about how powerful language is and word choice
Mhm,
is for me, in terms of how I think and act, and then try to maybe persuade, uh,
mhm.
people say, "You're 3 years old. You should know better than that so
But
easily."
should they really?
No, but to say,
They
"You've
should
got
not.
37 months on Earth. You should know." Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That's a whole
Yeah,
different
no.
message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. It just it's a reframe, and that's what I think. I know that it's gonna take a long time for our field to unlearn everything that we need to unlearn in order for us to evolve in the way that we need to evolve. However, we can take small steps because small is all,
Yeah.
and we can do that by changing reframing the words that we use.
Uh-huh.
If it's easier to remind yourself that that might not be a good idea to say that you're 36 months, you're not going to follow that with you should know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that helps, do it. If it helps you to say, I know with me, when I was learning about like dumping,
Uh-huh.
the the thing that I used to say was they're just learning. This is how they learn. This is how they learn over and over because that was a reframe.
Uh-huh.
Instead of this is getting on my nerves.
Right.
This is how they learn. It has nothing to do with me.
Uh-huh.
So that's fun. The kids were playing, and we have one that's really into dumping. And so you'll clean up everything, and he'll just, especially when he's sleepy, he'll just
Yeah.
go from one place to the other, just dump it. And one of the older kids was just like, "Oh, they're dumping everything." And I said, "You know what? They're just learning, and that's fun for him. So I'll just go pick it up."
Uh-huh.
And the
Uh-huh.
child was just stunned, like, "What?" But it took a long time for me to get there, but I got there by just changing the words that I used.
Yeah.
Instead of, "Why do you keep doing that?" Or, "I've told you a million times," or, "We don't do that."
Yeah.
Then it's like, "Oh, they're learning. They're
And you
learning."
don't need to decide exactly in that moment what they're learning.
Nope. Nope.
That's where the trust comes in, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
we could keep watching and develop some ideas about what they're learning, but this is
Mhm.
kind of the other piece for me is like it just feels sort of uh arrogant at this point for me now to
Mm.
think that I could ever really know what a child is learning from something I
Oh,
read.
100%. Yeah.
So also this idea that to be developmentally appropriate means that we have to be able to measure some learning, or that if we offer this activity that we've called developmentally appropriate, it will automatically translate into new learning for the children in front of us.
Yeah.
I think it's foolish. I think we can't know that.
We
We can
can't.
keep
And
watching and we can guess and we can wonder and we can try new things,
Mhm.
but we can't really know.
That's it. We have to observe.
We have to humble
Yes.
ourselves a little bit to
Wonder.
get to the
Yes. Get some humility about ourselves. Be quiet. We have to do all of those things. But I think the other thing that got me was that joy, we can't
Mhm.
quantify, right?
Yeah.
But we know it's vital to learning.
Yeah.
Well, if we can't measure joy, I don't really care to measure anything else. I'm good because I know the most important thing is the joy
Yeah.
for the child. And so I'm good with just observing, just like taking anecdotal notes
Mhm.
for what's going on with the child, making sure, oh, I noticed that they're doing that every day and they did it with this and this. Oh, maybe they want to connect something. Oh, maybe they want to carry something. I
Mhm.
can do that. And I can be completely okay with the fact that I'm not sure any of that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still a student. I'm still learning just like everybody else.
Yeah. Excuse me. I think I was like just reviewing my notes. I think I hit all my things, but um I don't know. I'm really fighting the urge to backtrack or qualify things that I've said in case someone's mad about it. I guess I just be mad about it.
Just be
If
mad.
anything that we said in this
Mhm.
conversation has you um uh feeling some kind of way,
Yeah.
uh
Because sometimes it just is,
yeah.
right? And we
Just
deal with children every day and things it just is. Some days are great days, some
yeah,
days are shitty days, and
yeah,
it just is either way.
yeah.
And that's how it is in this profession. But more importantly, I think we owe it to our colleagues
Hmm.
to challenge them.
Yeah,
Discomfort moves people.
right.
Aggravation moves people. Prove me wrong. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
If you have an issue with what I'm saying, I'm not gonna put it on you. If you have an issue with what Heather's saying, but if you have an issue with what I'm saying, prove me wrong. But
Yeah.
you're going to have to do it and come with the receipts. You're
Hmm.
going to have to actually show me what you did.
Yeah.
And it can't be on a checklist. I want to
Yeah.
see the kids.
Hmm.
So
Right.
I want to see how this works for your children. And
Yeah.
if you can do that, then I'll say, okay, because
Mhm.
we don't all have to do things the same way. And if you do that, you're showing me that you're responsive to your children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Voila.
There
We're
you have
still talking about the same thing then.
Yes, exactly.
I
Yeah.
think people think you want to do it like you got to do it like me. No, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean that's just it. I mean, quality can't just be one thing, I guess, if we want to wrap
Yeah.
this up. And that
Hmm.
maybe is a good segue.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, if you can make the case that your very different way, your way of doing things that's very different from mine is still coming from a place of responding to the children in front of you,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
then hooray for your different practice, I guess.
Hooray. Hooray for it. Bully for you. I
Yeah.
think if whether you're play-based, academic centered, Waldorf, Montessori, whatever you are, if you come back to the child,
Mhm.
hooray for you.
Mhm. There you go.
Mm.
Um, Thanks, Kisa.
Welcome.
That was challenging and fun, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Um,
Let's be
so
here.
thanks for all that, and thanks everybody for listening to another episode of That Early Childhood Nerd. We'll see you next week.
Ta-ta.